Hey everyone, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited to do an update for my reading journal this year. This is going to be February. Now remember I said that I wanted to do my books bigger this year, and while that is great in theory, it means that I am not going to get a lot of months on this page. So if I only get 3 months, which that's what it's looking like, then I will just make another 2024 books right after March, and then that will be for 3 months as well. I also decided, or I'm thinking about, as I'm putting down this Meet Cute series by a bunch of romance authors, that I might actually take those off later on and just do maybe one of them or a few. That way I can have more room for March books. Because you can see that I wound up reading 19 books in February. A lot of it was because of that Meet Cute series, which was 6 books in total. And also I had a break from school, so I got a few days to myself and I just flew through several books. I grabbed the wrong marker when I was filling in read 125 books, but I quickly found the correct one and I was able to fill in some of the bar that I have, and I also filled in a big chunk for listen to 55 audiobooks, added one for middle grade, and then a big chunk for nonfiction. I remembered to print my books for the monthly faves, and I have You with the View in January and What You Do to Me for February. And then I flipped to this annual stats page. I put 19 books, 6 were physical, 12 were audio, and only 1 was a Kindle. And I had to go back and kind of count how many books were audio because I forgot. I also was able to read quite a bit of nonfiction this month. I think it wound up being 6 or something like that, but I'll figure it out later when I get to the stats page and I can share that with you. I am going to add in the total pages, hours listened, average length, which my average length was less than 300. In January, it was 300 to 500. So I have to come back to the library savings page because I haven't added that one up. So I'll come back and fill in that last box. I'm going to go ahead and do my Shelfie right now. And what works for me is to fill in the title first and then color everything in. So I listened to the nonfiction story of Ronald Dole, and he had 2 books, Boy and Flying Solo, and I absolutely loved those, particularly Flying Solo. It's just amazing. He was a World War II fighter pilot, and it's just amazing the things that he went through. And let's see, I told you guys about the Meet Cute series. Those books were kind of hit and miss for me overall. I also listened to In the Likely Event, which was a wonderful romance, really, really good. I read the 3rd book in a series, and the book is called Last Call at the Local. I am now on my 2nd shelf, which is exciting. Being only 2 months into the year, I have 2 shelves. So I had to make sure that my colored pencils were the same because I really want to make sure that they stay the same when I'm filling out this entire Shelfie, and I don't want to have to redo everything like I did for January. So I almost have the Shelfie done, and then I think the next page is going to be the Goodreads page where I fill in a box for all the books that I have read. So again, it was a really great month for reading, and even if you don't count the Meet Cute series, or you count it as just 1 book or 1 big audio, that's still 13 books, which is great. But like I always say, any reading is wonderful. 1 book, amazing. 12 books, amazing. Okay, moving on to Goodreads. Again, I have 12, or not 12, I have 19. I was at 12 when I ended in January, so now I'm going to fill in all the way to 31 books, which is just wild. And if you guys remember, I've skipped 66, so once I get to 66, I will have to make a decision on how I'm going to fill that in. I'm thinking about doing like a microscopic box in between 65 and 67. Okay, so I'm kind of mad at myself about this one. I thought I put my library receipts in a spot and they were not in the spot that I thought. So I got 2 receipts for a total of $235.91 savings, but I don't think that that is all of my receipts, which is kind of a bummer, but it's still a huge savings and I still have, 2 receipts because I'm pretty sure I went to the library one more time in February, but I mean, I could be wrong. But I'm definitely keeping track of my March and also my April receipts. So the next page is the A to Z, and I added for B, the Bridge to Terabitha. I read the classic children's book, and I was definitely moved to tears. It was incredible, and I can't believe that I hadn't read that when I was a child. I was pretty surprised. I also added I in the likely event and then W, what you do to me. And I'm just flipping back and forth now to figure out what the genres are that I want to include. And I had a good mix of genres. For 12 books and 12 friends, I was able to add 2 more, which was the Blonde Identity and in the likely event. Goodness, I can't say that. Like, it's a tongue twister for me. I didn't add anything to the United States challenge or around the USA challenge, but I did add 4 romance books, and I could have included the Meet Cute, but I kind of forgot, and that's okay. That happens. Now I'm going to move on to putting together February, and I always start with the calendar, and I think I do like 8 boxes, 8 dots down, and then I start my calendar. And I'm going to include the start of the book and also the end of the book. And the reason I mentioned the 8 dots is because when I got to the right-hand side of the page, I counted it and it looked a little weird to me. It looks like I should have bumped up the boxes 1 more, but I don't know. I just went with the 8 on both sides, and if the right-hand side is a little lower, that's okay. I'm just going to keep moving forward. I also was thinking as I'm making this, I'm pretty sure I don't have enough boxes. And later on, you will see that I had to draw in another row of boxes. And once again, I'm going to try to use like traditional scrapbooking supplies to go ahead and decorate this page. I just use, my handwriting. I just write out the days of the week instead of getting stamping. Anyway, I can try to make this go a little bit quicker, right? So I didn't pay attention to when February actually started, and I just started going dot happy and putting dots everywhere. So February actually starts on Thursday. So I actually need to figure out a way to cover up the dots for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday up at the top. I am going to use a white jelly pen in just a little bit, but it really doesn't work, which is kind of a bummer, but that's okay. So this is where I add another row of boxes for 26 through the 29th. And it goes all the way to the bottom of the page, but that's okay. So I'm rolling the jelly pen because I recently heard from a friend that sometimes with gel pens, if you roll them, it makes them work better and not quit so easily, because I was having trouble with a pen. So I thought I would share that little tip in case you needed that tip as well. Now that I have all of my boxes that I need and the little circles for the date, I can go ahead and grab the supplies that I had picked. It was the Allie Edwards February scrapbooking kit, and her kit includes some vellum, and I'm trying to find different ways to use it. I had one that said Galentine's Day, which I knew I didn't need, so I could just use the pink portions, and I also had one that kind of had a multi-patterned on it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I think overall the color scheme that she chose for her kit is so unique for February that I had to use it. So I punched just a few circles in 1.5 and 1 inch, because those are really the only punches that I have. I keep telling myself to get some more, but I never have. So, and these ones have worked so well, and they're such a basic shape. So I'm using those and I'm putting them in 3 different locations to create a really fantastic visual triangle. That's what I'm trying to say, a visual triangle. And then I run into the issue of I want to add some washi tape, but I wasn't sure what kind. And I went through like 10 different rolls that I tried out, but I took that out of the editing. And I just showed you guys that I settled on a green, since there was a little bit of green in that multi-pattern vellum. And so I wanted to bring out the green just a little bit. Like I said, it's totally different February color scheme, but I love it. So I have half a circle down at the bottom, a full circle, and I've also laid out some various stamps that I'm going to use as well. Last month, I think I colored in my stamps, and I was kind of on the fence about that, whether I liked it or not. So this month I decided to not color them and just leave it as stamped black, and that works good enough. And the Ali Edwards kit has the option to buy a stamp set that will coordinate. So I got that stamp set and it has the month. So I just used that instead of like grabbing an alpha stamp set. So February is stamped, and I also used Syncopation Designs stamp set to stamp Stay True to Your Shelf and Make Time to Read, which is really like the theme of my life right now. Find the time to read, which is not easy now that I work, right? I had a large pink die cut and I thought that that would go, but goodness no, it did not go. Now I want to try to find some inks that will work, because that little stamp set also had a trio of hearts. So I knew that a soft pink would work great, but I didn't know what would work well for the kind of I want to say goldish yellow that was in the multi-pattern. I wound up, I think, going with an orange and then a red. So just a little bit of stamping, and I love how it turned out. There's lots of different colors, but I think they all go together really well. So I started off the month with a book called What You Do to Me, and if you're singing that Delilah song, this whole book is based on that song, which is just incredible. And it made for a absolutely fantastic book. It was my favorite book of the month, and I loved it. It was a beautiful story, and I think it's a story that will stay with me. So that was my first book, and then my first audio was Good Bad Girl, and I don't know, that one was a thriller, but it just was so-so for me. Not something that I really enjoyed. I mean, I liked the characters, but it was hard to keep track of the characters, and I don't know. It was just okay. Next up that I read was Bettin' on You, which is by Lynn Painter, which is an author that I really enjoy, and I've read several of her books, mostly her teen romance books. I know that I just put one of her adult ones on my to be read list, but I can't remember what it's called, but I'm excited to read that. I also tried out my first book that I got at the library. Well, I get all my books at the library, but it was the first time I'd gone into the library, looked for a book, and just read the book cover and went with it, instead of going to Goodreads or Bookstagram or anything like that. It was called The Burnout, and it was actually a decent book. I think it was pretty good. I just didn't have a lot of time to read, but I think overall it was a pretty good book. I also got to read the Britney Spears memoir, which was definitely very interesting, and I read Tom Felton, Beyond the Wand, his memoir, which I absolutely loved. I flew through that in like 2 days. It was an audio that I listened to. And I finished up the month with a mystery romance called The Blonde Identity. So lots of great books, and again, a mix of genres that I have that I read in a month. And so I also wanted to mention what I'm reading right now. I just started Kristen Hanna, The Women, which I know everybody is talking about, and I'm so excited to dive into it, even though I know it is going to be an emotional book and dealing with a lot of hard issues. I'm also listening to a children's middle school book for audio. And for the last thing on this calendar page, I am making a box, or I'm going to make a box for the audio that's yellow, and then for books, I will do pink. So That way I can distinguish which is which. And as always, if you'd love to share what you are reading or what you're looking forward to reading, I would love to know in the comment section. So that is my February calendar page, and now I can move on to the stats page. I kind of sketched out everything with a pencil so that way I knew where it was going to at least be, and I changed a few things, not too much. I think it's just total pages over on the right hand side is going to get changed. You'll see. But basically I had to rewrite where the total pages is because my book cover for my favorite book wound up being bigger than I thought. So down at the bottom, I'm going to have those 3 special categories, and so I need 3 lines for that. Over on the right hand side is where I put the average rating and hours listened, along with several lines for genres. I also copy the bar graph that the app Storygraph makes for me. And I actually should have made this bar graph bigger. It was really hard to kind of squeeze in all the different numbers that I had this month for my different ratings. And the reason I had such a wide range is because of that Meet Cute series. I rated a few low, I guess you could say. And so, yeah, you will see my bar graph is probably not precise, but that's totally okay. I got a brand new alpha stamp set from Ali Edwards, and I just love it. It's such a fun font. So I stamped out Feb and then stats, and I left a little space on the left-hand side to do a little bit of stamping in the corner. I stamped a heart, and then I decided, well, wait a second, I can stamp that heart, but I'm going to come back and decorate everything else later on. I just got excited that I had a spot for that heart. I wrote out genres, and I'm kind of all over the place with filling out these stats, so I apologize if it doesn't seem cohesive to you, but I was just filling it in whatever suited my fancy, I guess you could say. So I wrote out here total pages and then drew a line, and this is where I'm going to stamp out the number. And again, this stamp set is from Ali Edwards. The total number of pages was 4,259. So awesome number of pages. And last month I didn't put a spot for the total number of books, so I'm definitely going to include that this month, except you will notice that I never put up at the top total number of books. So if you see at the end of the video, yeah, I totally forgot to include that. I also have the average rating of 4.4, which is a little bit lower than I normally read, I think, but I'm not sure. So I have 6 paper, 12 audio, and 1 Kindle, which I already kind of told you about when we were doing the other stats. So it's interesting how I'm reading less and less Kindle and getting my most of my books in physical format. And I think that's because physical books through the library are so much easier to renew than, say, a Kindle book. Like Kindle books, you can hardly ever renew it. Like somebody is always waiting for it. So down on the nonfiction versus fiction, I had I think I needed one more set of dots to make it a total of 19, and would make it much easier to divide it up as far as nonfiction and fiction. And I think I was trying to look back at January to see how I did January. Since this is my only second time putting together my stats for this year, I felt like I was flipping back a lot to January to just kind of make sure I was being consistent. And I flipped back to the beginning where my books are to count out how many nonfiction I had read, which was a total of 4 nonfiction books, which I am pretty thrilled about. That's a lot of nonfiction, and I actually really enjoy reading nonfiction or listening to nonfiction and memoirs through audiobooks. So that's been a really exciting change for me. And once I have used my Sharpie pen to draw over the sketch lines, I use my sand eraser to kind of erase everything. It seems to work better than, say, like a white eraser would work. So down at the bottom, I'm going to work on my categories. I decide on faves, which I stamp 4, and then I noticed that I had 5 repeat authors or books that I have read from, the same author a few times. And then I also included the Meet Cute series, since that was very themed for love and February. So I put 1 Meet Cute series. Above the categories for paper, audio, and Kindle, I'm going to draw 6 kind of staggered lines to break up the overall emotion of the book. And this is all based off of what the Storygraph app tells me, because you can do a review on the app, and then based on your review and everyone else's, it kind of puts the book in certain categories. So like emotional or adventurous or mysterious. And I really like that, and I love including that. So I've got my little circle here, and it is a 2-inch circle. I believe it's the same circle that I used last year. I thought about making my circle just a little bit bigger for this year, but decided not to. And my trick to kind of figuring out the size of the slices is to use pencil first and lightly sketch out the different chunks. And then, it doesn't have to be precise, but at least with the pencil, it helps me kind of finagle it. I love that word. Finagle it and figure it out. So I'm going to have 1 big section for my first emotion, and then another 2 medium-sized ones, and then 3 kind of small ones. Because I always do the last category as kind of other. And I don't think I did that this month, and I'm not quite sure why. I may have goofed on my pie chart now that I am doing this voiceover. I kind of noticed that, but that's okay. We're just going to keep moving forward. So this is where the book cover was, and I had to quickly run it over to my paper trimmer and trim it just a little bit. And once I saw this book cover, I was like, okay, it has some pink and that'll work. I'm not really feeling like adding purple. So I'm just going to continue with the colored pencils that I had picked out. And I know I should have added some purple, because I do color in one of the pie slices as yellow, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that, but I left it, and I think overall everything works really well together in the end. But adding that yellow was kind of one of those like, oh boy, did I goof it or not? Because you guys, I have taken it's been painstaking, but I replace a slice of the pie chart so that way it's a different color. Like I have to cut it out and size it and everything, but I didn't this time. So the total hours listened was 52 hours and 88 minutes, which is just amazing. I also had, like I said earlier, a lot of different genres. So classic, mystery, romance, memoir, music, young adult, and autobiography. I also had, so many different ratings, and I didn't want to do it with pen first. So I did it with pencil, and then I wrote over it. So that way I was really sure that I got it the way that I wanted. And for some reason, I didn't use my ruler, maybe because I thought, oh, my lines will be straight. No, I've got lots of itty bitty baby bar chart looking things, and they're wobbly, but it works. Because I had one book that I rated at a 3.25, and then it goes all the way to a 5-star book. This is where I drew in the yellow, and I'm not going to change it, friends. Not going to change it. So I'm proud of myself, and like I said, I think in the end, it's all just, it looks cohesive, and I love it. I also love the fact that most of the time I go with the same color scheme for the calendar and the stats. This time I did something totally different and did the calendar was a separate color scheme, and then the stats was a different color scheme, which was fun to do that. So as I'm filling in these slices, I'm also adding and filling in the square box and filling in some of the bar graph that I have. That way they're all the same colors. And then I can fill in what the actual Slices mean according to the color that they are filled in. And after that, I will add just a little bit of stamping to finish up the page. And yeah, it's just so fun to make this. I'd love to know in the comment section how you guys are documenting your books this year, because there's so many different fun and creative ways to document your books. As you can see here, I was trying to make sure that the red that I had kind of already used was a different shade than the one that I had picked. And I think they are not as different as I would have wanted, but that's okay. So the biggest category I read this month was lighthearted, and then the next one was funny, followed by emotional, and then adventurous and reflective, and then the final one was mysterious. So for the favorite book, I want to stamp favorite, but I also want to leave a spot to put in the total number of books read. And I'm just going to add a line right above total pages and stamp 19. But what I actually stamp is 16. And I think this has to do with the fact that a lot of Ali Edwards stamps only have a 6, and you just use it as a 6 or a 9. So I got a little confused, but I'm going to fix it at the very end. The only thing I forgot to do, like I mentioned earlier, is I forgot to put above the stamped 19, or what's supposed to be a 19, I forgot to stamp total number of books. So I did that after I finished filming the video. So I added in some more of those stamped hearts, and then added in some stars in yellow and red to finish up this entire spread. And again, I have so loved putting together these spreads, and I'm so glad that you guys enjoy them, and it's just so fun to document all the books. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase the bar graph. This is where I figure out that I need to do the 19. So I quickly do that, cut it out, and adhere it down to where the total number of books is. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed seeing this reading journal come together. I know it was a little bit of a longer video, but that's kind of how it goes for reading journal updates. So this is how February looks, and then you turn it to the stats page, and I really love how all these colors came together. They work so well. And now what I have is I've already put down the books. I feel like I'm a little bit behind on my reviews, but I've done more reviews on Goodreads, so I can just, you know, copy it right into here. For this Meet Cute series, I just did a collage, and what I'll do is just a flip up and probably one sentence about it. So those are some books. This one I have a flip out as well. I really don't like how it's crooked, so I will probably fix that. And you know, these are favorites, so you'll probably see a process video later on. And then finish up February right there. So I've got a good start on February, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I would love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a great day. Bye.